Hello and welcome to another episode of the Pitch Side Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates. Follow us on social media, the usernames are on screen, the links are in the description, and of course, listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. Welcome to the newest episode of the Pitch Side Podcast. This is going to be a purely African episode of sorts. We're going to be only talking about the African Cup of Nations, and we start from the last day of round 16, which ended with Egypt and Equatorial Guinea joining the fray of the last 8, of course, both joining on penalties, beating Ivory Coast and Mali respectively on penalties to join the last 8 and to round up the quarterfinals bracket for this tournament. And we start, of course, from the game in Japuma Stadium in Douala between Egypt and Ivory Coast. It was... before the game, there was some serious expectations about Egypt. Of course, they haven't been impressive. That's clear for everybody to see. In the group stages, they haven't been really proving themselves with Mo Salah in their squad. They really didn't prove why they should be considered one of the favourites. Ivory Coast, on the other hand, probably were playing the slickest football you can see in the group stages. Beating Algeria, the champions, was really a big point where people thought, you know what, Ivory Coast are going through to the last 8 and to the final. Then you think, of course, about the differences I think in the squad between the two sides. Yes, Egypt has Mo Salah and has a couple of good players as well in it. They're playing in top European football, but also you think of the Ivory Coast squad. They have loads of stars in their in their ranks. You think of the likes of Wilfried Zaha not starting, Maxwell Cornet not starting, Jeremy Boga not starting. You think of these players being on the bench to start, and it's absolutely ridiculous before the game. Within the game, though, it was obviously different, and I think this was a game that was starting to look, in a way, at least for the first 30 minutes, like a carbon copy of the Tunisia-Algeria game, where obviously one team was trying to up the pressure, trying to play high tempo, trying to wear down their opponents, which is Ivory Coast, and they were trying to wear down Egypt. But the problem is, Egypt were tight, just like Tunisia were against Nigeria. Egypt were tight, they closed down their spaces really well, they did their homework. I think about Ivory Coast, the way they're trying to move between the spaces. Sebastien Haller was ineffective, I think, for the entire game, didn't really had any real chance to score or to get, even to set up his players in the spaces. There weren't even loads of spaces. Like, I didn't see Ivory Coast getting lots of breaks where they are like 2-on-1, for example, or having some serious numerical advantage in their ranks. Egypt, on the other hand, they managed to withstand the pressure, they managed to weather down the storm in the first 30 minutes, and then they started transitioning really well forward. And I think a big point in this game, big turning point, was Franck Kessié's injury, because before that, Ivory Coast were controlling the midfield completely. They were not losing balls in the midfield, they were absolutely bossing the midfield with the presence of Franck Kessié in the field. After his injury, things became much different. Egypt, by Al-Neni and Assoulia, decided to take control. They started advancing more, they started taking more control of the game, and things changed to the better for Egypt. And overall, I would say that Egypt played better than Ivory Coast. That's, I think, undoubtedly. They created loads of chances, but finishing was a big problem for Egypt, and we will speak about it, I think, in the preview, but I think it will be a big issue if you're facing a side like Morocco in the quarterfinals, of course, which they're going to be doing on Sunday. So, finishing was a problem for Egypt. They created loads of opportunities, but they couldn't finish. They created numerous occasions where they could have done better. There was situations where, Salah was running in real spaces in front of people. The players around him were not smart enough, didn't have enough IQ in them to pass him the ball. I think there was, a difference in sort of, gears, let's say. A difference in gears between Mo Salah and the rest of the team. But anyway, Egypt, I think, will be happy that they got the job done, on penalties or not. They will not care exactly. Just a couple of shout-outs before the end of the game. Eric Bailly, of course, was the best player, in my opinion, on the pitch in the 90 minutes and the 120. He had a terrific game. Yes, it's a shame people will remember that he missed the penalty in the shootout, but I think he is one of the best players on the pitch, and he definitely had a game that he could take with him to Manchester United. He could really, base his performances on this one. He could really improve himself and become maybe a regular starter for Manchester United. He deserves it. I think he's one of the best defenders Man United have, considering the poor lack of quality elsewhere in that position in Manchester United. Back to this game. Of course, there was a worry, I think, for Egypt towards the end of the game when their goalkeeper El Shenawi was injured or went down injured. People were like, oh no, no, please, not now. This is not the right time to be injured. But of course, the replacement Amu Gabal was brilliant in his own right, saving a penalty for Ekbai. Although, you know what? Maybe you can question even the technique that penalty, was struck with from Bailly, but that's not time for that. Ivory Coast losing again to Egypt on penalties again after 2006, and Ivory Coast, I think, they're becoming the England of Africa in a way. Like, they're having some serious problems with penalties. They lost to Egypt twice now. They lost with it in 2008. They lost to Zambia in 2012 on penalties. It's weird. It's weird. Really weird. I genuinely think Ivory Coast didn't look that sharp in this game. Yes, they had, most of the ball, I would say, for loads of the game. Particularly in the extra time, I thought they had more of the ball. But enough, eventually did enough. They didn't do enough to deserve a victory. And Egypt deserved it because they were tenacious. They were pretty, strict in their defense. They had a plan and they applied it, which is unlike the other games that they had in the tournament so far. So Carlos Queiroz, I think, learned something at the very least, and also learned something from the game between Tunisia and Nigeria, and how Tunisia fought valiantly against an overpowered favourite Nigeria side to win. They did the same here, and obviously having an extra weapon in Mo Salah helps as well. So congratulations to Egypt, and they join Equatorial Guinea as well. Speaking of them, they go to the next round, the quarterfinals, after beating Mali by penalties. Listen, this game didn't have a lot to talk about. Seriously, didn't have anything of note to talk about. No shots on target in the 90 minutes from either side. Just one, I think, or two in the extra time, and we just had the penalties. But by the way, I genuinely want to give a shout out to Akapu, the Equatorial Guinea player, for pulling a Panenka in that round of 16. Not just a Panenka in the round of 16, a Panenka in the round of 16 of the AFCON in Limbe Stadium. The worst stadium of them all, the worst stadium of the bunch in that tournament. I really want to shout him out, like, salute to you, man, because that takes not just a lot of nerves, a lot of technique, but a lot of, cojones, as the Spaniards would say, to do so, not just in an African Cup of Nations, but also in a bad stadium like that. I mean, things could have gone horribly in that Panenka, but I think it was a big moment because it lifted the pressure of the Equatorial Guinea players. It really boosted, I think, their momentum. The penalties went a bit long, 6-5, and there was numerous penalties missed from both sides. When Equatorial Guinea missed the first penalty, we thought, you know what, yeah. Mali are going to take advantage. They never lost a penalty shootout in the African Cup of Nations. They went through 3 and they won all of the 3 before this one. But this time it was different. The goalkeeper, saved the last one from Adama Traore, and in the end, it was Equatorial Guinea who goes through, and they're going to be meeting, of course, Senegal in the quarterfinal. That is going to be on Sunday. It will be, I think, a hard game for Senegal anyway. Equatorial Guinea, I think, shown throughout this tournament that they can be a tenacious side. They can be a very, very secure side, very strong defensively. 3 clean sheets in a row, including one against the former African champions now, Algeria, and now against Mali. Although, really, realistically speaking, just want to say this about Mali in relation to the World Cup playoffs. I don't think that Mali are that good. I think we were just that passive against them in the group stage game. So I think in the World Cup playoffs, I think we have a bigger chance to beat them and to go through them to the World Cup anyway. So congratulations again for Equatorial Guinea and for Egypt. We're still going to talk about the African Cup of Nations, and we're going to transition straightly to to our quarterfinal preview. And of course, the games are going to be played on Saturday and on Sunday. On Saturday, it will be Burkina Faso versus Tunisia and the host nations. Gambia playing Cameroon. On Sunday, it will be Senegal playing Equatorial Guinea, and it will be Egypt playing Morocco. And what big games waiting us, of course, in the quarterfinal. Burkina Faso versus Tunisia, I'm going to start from my country first, so I really get all the bias, I think, out of the way. This is going to be, obviously, a vengeful game. We played them in 2017, and, you know, as much as it hurts us as Tunisians, that game, personally, because we felt that we were obviously better, definitely deserved of the win there, but we just made, you know, a couple of mistakes that were deadly. At the end, we felt, I think this game is going to be different. This game we enter it as, I'm not going to say clear favourites, but with more motivation than what we should do, considering the game we had against Nigeria. Burkina Faso, on the other hand, they had a decent showing in the group stages. They played a very intense game against Gabon. They went to do extra time and 2 penalties, so I'm not going to say they will be physically tired because they had they're going to be having a week rest, I would say, to play, which is just like us. We played on the same day, so they're going to be really having a good, solid amount of rest, just like us, to prepare for their game. As far as we're concerned, I think we need to focus in this game. Keep focusing on this game. Keep playing with the same spirit against Nigeria, because vengeance might make us blind sometimes. I mean, the thought of trying to avenge the loss of 2017 is going to be probably in the back of the mind of some of the players who were there, which are not a lot in this squad. I think there's only like 1 or 2 players, like Msakni probably was there. Schiri was one of those players, probably. I don't know, Sleety maybe, but aside from those 3, and Kazri, obviously, aside from those 4, I don't think that the other players knew exactly what it meant from the stadium. I mean, they probably watched it, but they don't know what it means from the stadium itself. So, in a kind of way, this game is going to be even bigger than the one against Nigeria, because by the time you reach the semi-final, hopefully for us, and we meet the either Senegal or Equatorial Guinea, it will be it'll be no holding back time. We should be thinking about the trophy by then. We should be thinking about winning the African Cup of Nations, and not even thinking about the best result we can do. I mean, that thought is out of the window now that we are past Nigeria, and people look at us in a big way like, yeah, they eliminated one of those favourites to win in Nigeria. So this game, I think, is going to be played on little details. Are we ready physically? Are they going to be tired physically after the 120 minutes? How it's going to affect them? How we're going to be stopping their biggest weapons? And by the way, how we're not going to leave spaces for them, because have players who love spaces. I mean, Bertrand Traoré and Ibrahim Sangare love to have some spaces, and we saw them against Gabon. When they have spaces, they are really, really dangerous, and they could hurt. So Tunisia need to be tight. I think double as tighter in the middle, because against Nigeria the game plan was easy. You close down on the wingers, you close down on the fullbacks, and it's pretty much done, and no service is going to get to the players. Against Burkina Faso it's much different, because they like to play direct. They like to play one long pass or one quick transition, and Tunisia needs to be very, very careful when they're trying to tighten the spaces, because any mispass, any long errant ball, any ball without enough focus, Burkina Faso are going to be ready to pounce, and they're going to be transitioning very, very quickly. And for a side that doesn't have loads of stars in it, they pretty much play very smooth football sometimes. So it's going to depend on how Tunisia are going to be tightening things up in the back, but also they must have more offensive intent than what we had against Nigeria, because surely we must have more chances than we had against Nigeria. Surely we're going to create more. Surely I would dare to say we're going to have more possession, I would say, in this game than Burkina Faso, because that's what we should do. That's what should happen in that game. We are technically better than Burkina Faso, but definitely we need more concentration, the same amount of energy, the same spirit, and we need a clinical finishing. Why we don't dare to dream to kill the game off from the start, to have a couple of chances, 2-0 early, we kill the game. That's what we do. That's what we need to do. We don't need to stress out ourselves in this game and make it hard, because only we can make it harder for ourselves. It's not Burkina Faso, it's us, the Tunisian players, who are going to be making this game hard for themselves to play. Because Burkina Faso, if you tighten things up, if you mark their weapons, if you deny them their weapons, they won't be very, very harmful. But if you don't play to your strengths, you're not going to be winning this. So, in my opinion, I'm not very worried about this match, because the match I was worried about was Nigeria, and that's through. So, in my opinion, I think if we exit now from the quarterfinals, yes, it will be a big disappointment, because you think that we should have be picking up steam. But hopefully we will get through it anyway, through penalties, extra time, or in the 90s. Hopefully we will qualify. Which leads us to our potential opponents in the semi-finals in the bracket if we qualify: Senegal or Equatorial Guinea. Now, straight off the bat, Senegal are not impressive. And the fact that they had this path to the quarterfinals, playing in a group where there's Malawi, Zimbabwe, Guinea, and then you have Cape Verde in the round of 16, and you have to only see 2 players of them being sent off to score, which is a debacle in of itself. Some of the referees said that the red card was not right against the goalkeeper, and also the first goal for Senegal was preceded by a foul. And I thought so, watching the game, by the way, just to close things down. I thought that, yes, the goal was preceded by a foul, but the referee was done horribly by giving him a bad angle. They gave him the front angle, which had a Cape Verde player actually covering that foul, obscuring the view of the referee, and somehow he still decided, you know what, this angle is very, very good. I'm going to count the goal. I'm going to allow the goal to stand. So, Senegal were not impressive. It looks like for the moment, if they don't have Mane, they will have no creativity. Mane at the moment is being monitored closely. Is he going to play the game against Guinea or not? It's going to be a big loss if he doesn't, but hopefully he's fine. Aside from anything, of course, outside of football, hopefully he's fine. Equatorial Guinea, on the other hand, as I mentioned in talking about their game against Mali, very stern defensively, very strong. Keeping a clean sheet against Algeria and keeping a clean sheet against Mali isn't easy, because those two sides have very good players that could hurt you up front. But I think Equatorial Guinea, I think one of those sides that impresses you with the limited abilities that they have. And Equatorial Guinea, that's what they did in this tournament. They're impressive with the amount of with the limited abilities that they have as far as they're concerned. So it's quite a dilemma when you think about it. I mean, some of the journalists were even questioning if Senegal were going to be qualifying against Cape Verde had they been 11. Had they been even 11 against 10, not just 11 against 11. Because that's how bad Senegal were in that game. That's how unimpressive, that's how ineffective Senegal were in that game. As far as my prediction, I think for that game, I don't know. I don't know. I hedge towards Senegal because they have better players. But genuinely, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Equatorial Guinea makes it, because they're that strong defensively. They could shut down Senegal. And it looks to me, again, I'll say it again, if they don't have Mane, or if Mane's not on the pitch, it's going to be less creativity for them. I mean, who's going to be the creative man in Senegal if Mane is out? I mean, I doubt it will be Idrissa Gueye. I doubt it will be Bouna Sarr on the right, although he's been having a good tournament, to be fair. He's probably been their best player this tournament. But aside from that, where's the creativity going to come from in the midfield? I don't think so. With losing someone like Ismail Assar not available and being taken with the squad, albeit injured, they already shot themselves in the foot by missing on such weapons. So I think they should have probably replaced him by someone else and someone else who could play. But anyway, as I mentioned, I just hedged towards Senegal because they have better players, but I'm not going to be totally surprised if Equatorial Guinea beats them. And I'm saying beating them, like not even taking the game to extra time and penalties, beating them. That they are there for the taking if the spaces appear. And as I mentioned, if they cannot have enough creativity without Mane, if he doesn't play, it's not going to be very surprising to see them lose that game and not score at the very least in that game anyway. To the second half of that bracket and the host nation half, which is going to guarantee us, at least if they qualify, a big semi-final on one hand. I mean, we guaranteed 2 potential big semi-finals, of course. Upwards, it's Tunisia versus Senegal, and then you have in the second half probably Cameroon. I doubt Gambia would do something. We're going to get to that, but and then you have Egypt, Morocco, of course, a big game on Sunday. Speaking of Cameroon, I really want to just say, obviously, all the condolences again to the 8 people who died in the stampede in the Olympic Stadium, and then of course there is like 50 more injured. We hope for them speedy recovery, but I mean, this just rounds up a lot of disasters in this African Cup of Nations, and one of them was on the pitch actually for Cameroon, not allowing Comoros to play with an extra goalkeeper, to have an emergency goalkeeper come to the tournament, which is just rough. Not making exceptions for a side like Comoros, who debutant, been struck by COVID, and in my opinion, I would say trying to conspire even against them. That's what I would think. They're trying to conspire even against Cameroon, try against Comoros, sorry, and trying to, I mean, they're minnows. Yeah, they're minnows. Yes, they played good, but they're still minnows. And Cameroon are favourites, are hosts. There was no need to conspire against them. This game against Gambia for them is going to be, I would say, probably the toughest game they had so far. That's what I would say, because when I see Gambia play, they're really, 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 really good. And as much stern defensively as they can be, and they're very strong defensively, they can be very deadly up front. And they play some slick football as well, despite the fact that the stadiums are not that good, but they still play some slick football compared to the stadium state. I'm not going to say a lot about this. In my opinion, if things go smoothly, and I mean, yes, Cameroon are favourites, and it looks like they will try everything to make Cameroon the winners, or at least get them to the final. I hope it stays on the pitch as well. I hope no extra sporting situations or no outside of sport situation occurs in this tournament. In the rest of it, that will favour Cameroon. But anyway, I would think that Cameroon would go through, but only if things remain normal. We shouldn't be hearing about Gambia having 70,000 COVID cases in their squad or anything like that, or weird things. I mean, they've been plainly complaining, they've been publicly complaining about the situation in the hotels. The coach saying that 6 players, staying in one hotel room, which is obviously weird and very, very worrying considering the circumstances at the moment. Saying that they're washing their own clothes and hanging them in the sun and hanging them in the on the trees. It's a weird situation. I think if anybody follows social media closely, they will see the picture of the whole Gambian squad wearing COVID protective, wearing, of course, and taking a picture with it in a very, very sarcastic move. But I think a very expressive sarcastic move, because it shows how much of a threat COVID could be when the other teams are not very well treated like the Cameroon teams are in this tournament anyway. So I think Cameroon are going to go through only if things remain fair on the pitch, because I think Gambia stands a very, very big chance to qualify. Which makes us and brings us to the the last game in this quarterfinal, and will be Egypt versus Morocco. And this Arab derby and this North African derby, I think it will be the most intense game in these quarterfinals, clearly, because Egypt's record with Morocco is pretty bad in the tournament overall. In their record overall, even outside of the African Cup of Nations, their record is pretty bad. They lost against them, I think, 11 times out of 20 games, I think. They played so far. Egypt only won 3 or 4. The record is pretty abysmal against them. And overall, I think I mentioned it earlier in the episode when I was talking about the Egypt game. Their finishing against Ivory Coast was bad, and against a side like Morocco, who seemed to be very, very active up front, they're creating loads of chances over the 4 games they had. They created numerous opportunities. to score. I think that the highest creators in this tournament, they definitely have the biggest amount of big chances created, I think, in this tournament. I'm sure of that, even without knowing the statistic exactly, but I'm sure of that from watching the games. They have a very strong squad at the moment, very compact squad, very understanding squad. They very, I would say, homogeneous squad, because they understand each other, and that's been Morocco's problem, I think, in the last tournaments, in the last couple of tournaments in African Cup of Nations, because they seem to don't understand each other, don't have enough harmony. They don't, almost function on the same wavelength. The players of Morocco, that's what probably was costly for them in 2017 and in 2019 when they went out to Benin, because in 2017 they were ousted by Egypt, yes, and that was kind of, and that is again which makes it kind of vengeful game for Morocco, but also in 2019 where they're ousted by Benin of all teams, through to their, I would say, diligence and lackadaisical sort of attitude overall, and there was problems, reported out of that camp at the time. But now it seems like everything is fine. Vahid Halilhodžić is taking things by the scruff of the neck with Morocco and really stamping, I think, his authority on that side, and definitely proving why he is a good coach, why he's a very respected coach, I think, in the African sphere, with his previous experience with Algeria, of course, reaching the round of 16 of the World Cup in 2014. Definitely this game is going to be hard, it's going to be intense, it's going to be creating loads of tension between Egyptians and Moroccans on social media for a while. I think as far as a result, I would think maybe Morocco will go through. I think Morocco are a notch above Ivory Coast at the moment. They've shown that they are a little bit more creative, a little bit more versatile than Ivory Coast. I would say, yes, the standard is against Malawi, to be fair, in the round of 16, but still, I expect Morocco to at least have a very, very strong game against Egypt. Not necessarily win, although that's my prediction. I predict that Morocco are going to go through to meet Cameroon in the semi-finals. But I think this will be a big game, I think, from both sides. Obviously, very anticipated, very expected, and it will definitely change the fortune of the winner. I think who's going to go to the semi-finals is going to go as probably one of the favourites to win the tournament, surely. So that's it for this episode. I like to keep it African purely. So that's it. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I was your host, HID of the PSP. Like, share, comment, of course, on the YouTube version, subscribe to the YouTube channel, listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform, and of course, follow us on social media. The links are in the description and the usernames on the screen. I'm not going to be doing an episode tomorrow. I'm going to be off for personal reasons. I'm going to be returning, of course, on Saturday with the round of the day, the recap of the day, and also on Sunday as well, of course, talking about the quarterfinals of the African Cup of Nations, and on Monday we'll return to the podcast as usual. That's it from me. I was your host, HOD of the PSP, and until the next episode, I will see you soon. Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.